In September 2008, the global economy collapsed. Millions of people lost their jobs, their homes, their savings. The worst financial crisis since the Great Depression swept across the entire world in a matter of days. And at the center of it all was one man. A man so feared on Wall Street they called him the Gorilla. This is the story of Dick Fuld, the CEO who ran Lehman Brothers into the ground, triggered a global catastrophe, walked away with nearly $500 million, and was never charged with a single crime. Richard Severin Fuld Jr. was born in 1946 in New York City. From the beginning, he was different from other men on Wall Street. Where others were polished and charming, Fuld was cold, aggressive, intimidating. He didn't shake your hand and smile. He looked at you like you were something to be consumed. He joined Lehman Brothers as a commercial paper trader in 1969. He was 23 years old, and from that first day, he began a slow, relentless climb to the top. By 1994, Dick Fuld was the CEO of Lehman Brothers, one of the most powerful investment banks in the world. Under his leadership, the firm grew from a struggling company, nearly destroyed by a merger gone wrong, into a global financial giant worth billions. He built an empire, and he believed, with absolute certainty, that it could never fall. His employees feared him. Former colleagues described walking into his office as physically uncomfortable. His stare was described as predatory, his temper as explosive. He fired people personally, loudly, without hesitation. He demanded total loyalty, and in return, he rewarded those who obeyed with extraordinary wealth. Between 2000 and 2007, Dick Fuld paid himself approximately $485 million, nearly $500 million in 8 years. While he collected that money, something dangerous was growing inside Lehman Brothers, something that would eventually consume everything. Here is what the world did not understand in 2007. Lehman Brothers had built its entire future on a single dangerous bet: real estate, specifically the American housing market. As housing prices rose through the early 2000s, Lehman began buying mortgage-backed securities, billions of dollars worth. These were financial products built on home loans given to people who could not afford them. The loans were bundled together, given impressive ratings by agencies paid to approve them, and sold as safe investments. They were not safe. Dick Fuld knew the risks. His own risk managers warned him repeatedly. His own analysts presented data showing the housing market was dangerously overextended. He ignored every warning because the profits were extraordinary, and Dick Fuld did not believe in retreat. In his own words, he wanted to eat what he killed. By 2008, Lehman Brothers had accumulated over $600 billion in debt. $600 billion. They had borrowed massively to bet on assets that were rapidly losing value. When the housing market began to crack in 2007, the crack spread quickly. Bear Stearns, another major investment bank, collapsed in March 2008. The government stepped in and arranged a rescue. Everyone on Wall Street assumed the same would happen for Lehman. They were wrong. On September 14, 2008, Dick Fuld spent the entire day on the phone, calling the government, calling potential buyers, calling anyone who might save his firm. Nobody came. At 1:45 in the morning on September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, the largest bankruptcy filing in American history. $650 billion in assets, gone overnight. The shockwave was immediate and global. Stock markets around the world collapsed within hours. Credit markets froze completely. Banks stopped lending to each other because nobody knew who was solvent. Businesses that needed short-term loans to make payroll suddenly couldn't get them. Companies began laying off workers by the thousands, then by the millions. The International Monetary Fund estimated the global financial crisis triggered by the Lehman collapse ultimately cost the world economy over $10 trillion. $10 trillion. Because one man refused to listen to his own risk managers. Dick Fuld appeared before Congress in October 2008. Millions of people watched. They expected answers, accountability, perhaps remorse. Instead, they got defiance. When asked if he felt any responsibility for what had happened, Fuld said he had asked himself every night what he could have done differently. His answer, not much. He believed he had made the right decisions. He believed the government had abandoned Lehman Brothers unfairly. He believed he was the victim. The man who had just triggered the worst global financial crisis in 80 years believed he was the victim. The question that haunted the hearing, and that was never fully answered, was this. While Lehman Brothers was collapsing, while risk managers were raising alarms, while the company was borrowing beyond any rational limit, Dick Fuld was selling his own stock. Executives at Lehman cashed out hundreds of millions of dollars in the years before the collapse. They knew. They had to know. But proving it in court was another matter entirely. The Department of Justice investigated. The SEC investigated. Civil lawsuits were filed. And after years of legal proceedings, Dick Fuld was never criminally charged. Not once. He paid civil settlements. His firm no longer existed. But Dick Fuld himself? He started a new investment firm called Matrix Private Capital Group. He continued working in finance. He continued making money. The $485 million he earned while Lehman was building toward collapse. He kept it. Every single dollar. Here is the darkest part of this story. Dick Fuld did not act alone. The ratings agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, Fitch, gave Lehman's toxic assets their highest ratings right up until the collapse. They were paid by the same banks they were supposed to evaluate independently. The conflict of interest was not hidden. It was the entire business model. The Federal Reserve and Treasury Department saw the risks building for years. They had the power to intervene. They chose not to, because the system was generating extraordinary profits for the people at the top. And the people at the top were the same people who funded political campaigns, sat on regulatory boards, and moved between Wall Street and Washington through a revolving door that never stopped spinning. When Lehman finally collapsed, the government did not let the system fail. They bailed out the banks, $700 billion of taxpayer money through the TARP program. The same banks that had created the crisis received government money to survive it. No senior executives at any major financial institution went to prison for the 2008 financial crisis. Not one. The people who lost their homes, they lost them. The people who lost their jobs, they lost them. The people who lost their retirement savings, they lost them. But the people who built the system that caused it all, they were fine. Dick Fuld retreated to one of his several luxury properties. He owned a mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, reportedly worth $14 million, a ski lodge in Sun Valley, Idaho, an oceanfront estate in Jupiter Island, Florida. Before the collapse became public, his wife reportedly transferred the Florida property into her name alone for $1. $1. The government tried to claw it back. They failed. Today, Dick Fuld is in his late 70s. He still works in finance. He still gives occasional interviews where he defends his decisions. He still believes he was treated unfairly. 10 million Americans lost their homes because of the crisis his decisions helped create. 8 million Americans lost their jobs. Retirement savings worth trillions of dollars were wiped out. And the man most responsible for the single most catastrophic moment of the entire crisis is still out there, still working, still wealthy, still free.
Culture that created Dick Fuld.
The 2008 financial crisis did not happen because of bad luck. It happened because a system built to enrich the few was allowed to grow without limits. Dick Fuld was not an accident. He was a product of a culture that rewarded aggression, punished caution, and protected its most dangerous players from the consequences of their own decisions. That culture did not end in 2008. It adapted, it survived, and it is running right now. If this story made you angry, it should. Subscribe to Luxury Vision Official right now, because the next story on this channel is even darker than this one. At Luxury Vision Official, we go where the mainstream financial press refuses to go. Hit the notification bell, because the truth about who really controls the global economy is something they hope you never find out. Before you leave, if this story made you feel something, anger, shock, or simply the need to know more, you are not alone. Every week at Luxury Vision Official, we go deeper into the stories that the financial world hopes you will never find. The men behind the crashes, the fortunes built on lies, the systems designed to protect the powerful and destroy everyone else. Luxury Vision Official exists for one reason: to show you what's really happening behind the glass towers and the tailored suits. Subscribe to Luxury Vision Official right now. Hit the notification bell, because the next story is even darker than this one.